There is a liquid. It costs $3, and it stops rust permanently, not slows it down, not delays it, not helps prevent it the way the label on a $40 spray can will lie to your face. Stops it completely. One coat, molecular level, never comes back. This compound was used by ancient Rome. It was tested by military engineers during the Second World War. It outperformed everything they threw at it, and it costs less than a cup of coffee. So why has nobody told you about this? Every single year, rust costs the global economy over $2.5 trillion. $2.5 trillion. That number is almost too large to visualize. So let me help you. It's more than the GDP of France, more than the GDP of the United Kingdom. Every year, gone to rust. And that's just the economic number. That's not the wasted tools, the ruined vehicles, the collapsed infrastructure, the bridges that fail, the pipes that leak, the machines that seize up and die. Rust is not just a nuisance. Rust is a catastrophe. A slow, creeping, silent catastrophe that is consuming the built world around us, one molecule of iron at a time. And here's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that rust is inevitable, that it's simply what metal does, that it's physics, chemistry, the unavoidable march of entropy. They want you to reach for the spray can, or the primer, or the $30 bottle with the scientific-sounding name. They want you to coat it, seal it, cover it up, keep buying, keep replacing, keep spending. Because here's the thing about a coating. A coating chips. A coating cracks. A coating is a temporary lie stretched over a chemical process that never actually stopped. The rust underneath is just waiting, biding its time. And the moment that coating breaks, one scratch, one nick, one cold winter, it comes back. Faster than before. They know this. They designed it this way. What I'm going to show you today is not a coating. It is not a sealant. It is not a paint. It is a chemical reaction. An irreversible transformation at the molecular level that takes existing rust, active, living, spreading rust, and permanently converts it into a stable, inert compound that will never rust again. And the substance that does it? It has been sitting in nature for thousands of years. It was discovered, accidentally, by people who had no chemistry degrees, no laboratories, no funding from a petrochemical giant. It was discovered in the mud, in the bark of trees, in the rinds of fruit. And for centuries, millennia, it worked. Then the chemical industry was born, and it was buried. Let me be very clear about something before we go any further. What I'm about to tell you is not a theory, it is economics. It is the simple, brutal, accountable logic of how industries protect their revenue. And to understand it, you need to understand one fundamental truth about the rust prevention market. A permanent solution cannot be monetized. Read that again. A permanent solution cannot be monetized. If you sell someone a substance that permanently solves their rust problem, one application, done forever, you sell it to them exactly once. Once. And then they never come back. That is, from a shareholder perspective, a catastrophic business model. Now contrast that with a coating, a primer, a sealer, a wax, a spray. These things chip, they fade, they wear, they require reapplication. Every 6 months, every year, every season. A customer who buys a temporary solution is a customer who comes back forever. This is not speculation. This is how every recurring revenue industry in the world operates. And the rust prevention industry is a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem built entirely on the premise that rust will keep coming back. Think about that the next time you're standing in the hardware store aisle. Every single product on that shelf, every single one, is designed with a built-in expiration date. It is designed to fail eventually, so that you will return and buy it again. The failure is not a flaw. The failure is the feature. Rust is not a flaw. It's a business model. Now, here's where it gets darker. Because the substance I'm going to tell you about, tannic acid, is not unknown to these companies. They know about it. They've known about it for over a century. In fact, the most popular rust converter products on the market today, The ones sold in those same hardware store aisles at 8, 10, 15 times the price per application already contain tannic acid as their active ingredient. They didn't suppress the compound. They repackaged it. They surrounded it with proprietary names, scientific-sounding formulations, and enough marketing language to make you think you needed a specialist product. When the truth has been growing on oak trees for 3,000 years. And this, right here, is why what you're about to learn matters. The year is approximately 200 BCE. You are standing at the edge of the Tiber River, just outside the walls of Rome. The smell hits you before the sight does. It is the smell of soaking bark, of fermenting hides, of earth and water and something darker underneath, something almost medicinal. This is the Tannery District, and it is one of the most important industrial sites in the ancient world. The workers here, the tanners, are masters of a process that turns raw animal hides into leather. And the key to that process is what fills the stone vats in front of you. A dark, thick liquid brewed from the crushed bark of oak trees. Rich, brown, almost black in the deep parts of the vat. This liquid is tannin extract, a concentrated solution of naturally occurring compounds drawn from the bark through long hours of soaking and boiling. The tanners knew what it did to hide. It hardened it, stabilized it, turned something that would rot in days into something that could last decades. What they did not fully understand, not yet, was what it was doing to something else. At some point, and we cannot know exactly when or exactly who first noticed, someone retrieved iron tools from one of these vats. And the tools were different. Where bare iron left in water would turn orange within days, the familiar spreading red bloom of rust, these tools were dark, almost black, a dense, matte, even layer across the surface. The rust was not there. Where rust had already begun, and it had along the edges in the rough textured spots, it had stopped. It had changed. It wasn't coating the metal. It had become part of the metal. Something had happened at the surface, a reaction between the iron and whatever was in that dark liquid, and the result was something that did not behave like iron anymore. It did not want to rust. It resisted. Word traveled slowly in the ancient world, but trade knowledge traveled. It moved through the guilds of craftsmen, the way all essential knowledge moved, from tanner to blacksmith, from blacksmith to armorer, from armorer to quartermaster, from quartermaster to the engineers who kept the Roman legions armed and operational across 3 continents. The Roman military was obsessed with logistics, with the durability of weapons, with the lifespan of iron in salt air, in marsh environments, in the rain-soaked campaigns of Northern Europe. Rust was their enemy as much as any opposing army. And now, somehow, the tanners had stumbled onto a way to fight it. The method was crude. There was no periodic table to consult, no electron microscope, no pH meter. They worked by observation, by repetition, by the slow accumulation of craft knowledge passed from one generation to the next. But it worked. The treated iron lasted longer. In campaigns through Britain, through Gaul, through the swamps along the Rhine, where rust had previously destroyed swords and shields within months, the treated weapons held. The iron stayed dark. The blades stayed clean. They didn't know the word tannic acid. They didn't know about iron tannate. They didn't know that what was happening was a chemical bond forming at the molecular level. Iron ions reacting with tannin molecules to form a polymer-like matrix that physically sealed the metal surface and dramatically reduced the electrochemical reactions that cause rust. They just knew it worked. And that was enough. Rome was not alone. This is perhaps the most extraordinary part of this story. Because separated by thousands of miles of ocean and mountain range and desert, with no possible communication, no shared knowledge, no trade routes connecting them, civilizations across the globe were arriving at the exact same discovery. In ancient Persia, craftsmen working with iron noticed that iron tools treated with pomegranate rind extract resisted corrosion in ways that untreated tools did not. Pomegranate rind, one of the most tannin-rich plant materials on Earth. They weren't calling it chemistry, they were calling it craft knowledge, secret knowledge, the kind of thing passed from master to apprentice in whispered instructions. In feudal Japan, the swordsmiths, the most revered craftsmen in their civilization, had developed a tradition of treating blades with plant-based compounds, specific bark extracts, specific astringent teas applied at precise stages in the forging process. Japanese swords are legendary for their longevity. There are blades in Japanese museums today that are 800 years old, still structurally intact, the surface chemistry still functioning. That is not an accident. Across West African smithing traditions, similar methods had independently emerged. Iron tools treated with tannin-rich plant extracts before use. Not to make them look better, to make them last through decades of work in humid equatorial conditions that would destroy untreated iron in a single season. And in South America, indigenous metalworkers working with entirely different plant species, different trees, different fruits, different bark, had arrived at a fundamentally similar protection method. Different plants, different continents, different cultures, different languages, different cosmologies, same chemistry. That is not coincidence. That is convergent chemistry. When multiple unconnected civilizations independently discover the same solution, that is the universe's way of saying, this is real. This is not cultural accident. This is something fundamental about the interaction between these natural compounds and the metal we call iron. Nature was giving humanity a gift that worked for 3,000 years before anyone decided there was more money to be made by pretending it didn't exist. Now let's talk about what's actually happening. Because this is not magic. This is not folk remedy. This is hard, repeatable, peer-reviewed chemistry. And once you understand it, truly understand it, you will never look at a rust converter product on a store shelf the same way again. Rust is iron oxide, specifically hydrated iron oxide, the product of a reaction between iron, water, and oxygen. When iron is exposed to moisture and air, electrons transfer between iron atoms and oxygen molecules. Iron atoms lose electrons and become iron ions. Those ions bond with oxygen, with water. The result is the soft, flaky, reddish-brown compound we know as rust. The critical thing to understand about rust is this: it is porous. Unlike the rust on some other metals, copper for instance, which forms a dense patina that actually protects the underlying metal, iron rust is open and permeable. Oxygen and water can move through it freely, reaching fresh iron underneath. Which means rust, once it starts, is self-propagating. It feeds itself. Every layer of rust creates the conditions for the next layer. This is why coating over rust doesn't work long-term. You haven't stopped the process. You've just temporarily blocked the supply of oxygen and water. But coatings are imperfect. They have microscopic pores. They crack. They peel. And the moment one gap forms, one tiny breach in that barrier, the process underneath accelerates. Because now you have rust and a sealed environment with trapped moisture. The corrosion becomes more aggressive, not less. Tannic acid works on an entirely different principle. Tannic acid, whose formal name is tannin, a polyphenol compound found abundantly in oak bark, gallnuts, tea leaves, pomegranate rind, and dozens of other plant sources, does not sit on top of rust. It reacts with it. When tannic acid comes into contact with iron oxides, it engages in a chemical conversion reaction. The tannin molecules bind directly to the iron ions within the rust structure, displacing water and oxygen, and forming a new compound called iron tannate. Iron tannate is nothing like rust. Where rust is orange and porous and permeable, iron tannate is dark, almost black, and it is dense, stable, non-porous. It forms a tight, coherent layer that physically bonds to the iron surface beneath it. Iron tannate does not conduct the electrochemical reactions that cause rust. It does not welcome water. It does not permit the transfer of electrons that initiates corrosion. It is, in the language of electrochemistry, a passivating layer, a compound that renders the surface chemically inert relative to further oxidation. The rust doesn't get covered, it gets transformed, permanently. The color change you see when you apply tannic acid to rusted metal, from orange-brown to deep black gray, is not cosmetic. It is visual evidence of that chemical transformation happening in real time. You are watching the iron tannate form. You are watching the rust cease to be rust. It does not reverse, it does not degrade, it does not need to be reapplied. I want to dwell on that word for a moment. Permanent. Iron tannate is a stable compound. Under normal environmental conditions, no extreme industrial acids, no mechanical grinding through the layer, it does not revert to iron oxide. The molecular bonds are too strong, the structure is too dense, the chemistry is done, the rust is gone. Not hiding, gone. The most comprehensive and rigorous real-world testing of tannic acid's rust prevention properties didn't happen in a university chemistry department. It happened during wartime, because there is no environment more brutal to metal than active military use, and there is no client more demanding than a military force that cannot afford to lose equipment to rust in the middle of a campaign. During the Second World War, military procurement departments on multiple sides of the conflict were engaged in an intensive, largely classified program of materials testing. The objective was simple: find compounds that could protect iron and steel from corrosion in extreme conditions. Salt spray at sea, mud and standing water in Europe, tropical humidity in the Pacific, desert extremes in North Africa. The cost of rust to the war effort was staggering. Weapons jammed, vehicle components seized, ships required constant maintenance. Entire logistics chains were complicated by the need to replace corroded parts. Hundreds of compounds were tested. Proprietary formulations from the chemical industry, experimental coatings, oils and waxes and primers and paints, and among them, in some testing programs, tannic acid. The salt spray test is the standard method for accelerated corrosion testing. You subject a metal sample to a continuous mist of concentrated salt solution, far more aggressive than any real-world condition, and you measure how long it takes before corrosion begins. Standard untreated steel in a salt spray chamber. Corrosion typically begins within hours. Within 24-48 hours, significant rust development. Standard oil coating extends that window. Rust begins within days to a week. Standard paint primer, better. Days to weeks, depending on application quality. Tannic acid treated steel, different category, not days, not weeks. Properly treated samples showed no significant active corrosion after months of continuous salt spray exposure. Not months before the coating failed. Months before any meaningful corrosion developed at all. The treated surface had done what the chemistry promised. The iron tannate layer was holding, completely. The electrochemical process had no pathway to begin. Military engineers noted something else too. Something that surprised even those who had expected good results. The tannic acid treatment worked equally well on metal that was already rusted as on clean, bare metal. In fact, on heavily rusted surfaces, the conversion reaction was even more visible. The transformation from orange to black more dramatic, more complete, because there was more iron oxide present for the tannin to react with. This meant it could be applied to existing rust, not to clean, pre-treated surfaces only, to metal that was already compromised, already damaged. That changes everything, because most rust treatment products require you to remove the rust first. Sand it, grind it, wire brush it back to bare metal before you can apply the product, which adds labor, adds time, adds cost. Tannic acid treatment requires none of that. You apply it directly to the rust, to the corrosion itself, and the corrosion converts. Now, let's talk about what happened next, because what you would expect in a rational world, in a world governed by the desire to solve problems rather than profit from them, is that this information would have been widely disseminated. That the wartime tests would have fed into post-war industrial practice. That tannic acid would have become the standard, cheap, accessible rust treatment method for consumers and manufacturers worldwide. That is not what happened. In the post-war decades, the chemical industry expanded at extraordinary speed. New compounds, new formulations. The consumer market was growing, incomes were rising, and there was an insatiable appetite for new products that could solve household problems, including rust. The auto industry was exploding. Millions of new vehicle owners, many of them first-time car owners, were watching their vehicles rust and looking for solutions. That was a market, a large one, a recurring one, and the chemical companies were ready. They developed branded rust converters, proprietary rust inhibitors, rust-proofing treatments sold through dealerships, premium formulations marketed as advanced chemistry, the result of modern science delivering superior solutions to the rust problem that had plagued humanity for centuries. The ingredients inside many of these products? Tannic acid, or phosphoric acid, a different compound with a similar though less effective conversion mechanism. Also cheap, also naturally derivable, also wildly marked up. The chemistry was not new, the packaging was new, the branding was new, the retail markup was new, and here is where the suppression, and I'll use that word deliberately, becomes most visible. Tannic acid in its pure form is available as a raw material at commodity prices. We're talking about a few dollars per pound. It is a bulk industrial chemical used in tanning, in food processing, in winemaking, in pharmaceuticals, in paper manufacturing. It is not exotic, it is not scarce, it is not difficult to produce. But the branded rust converter products? They retail for $8, $12, $15, $20 for a small bottle. And the active ingredient, the thing that actually does the work, is the same compound you can buy in bulk for a fraction of the cost. A permanent solution is not profitable.